If I could only give you one piece of practice advice ever, then this would be it. I have too often seen students who just play through pieces and studies over and over and over again and somehow hope that magically things will improve. But I am a huge believer that we need to work mindfully, we need to work with clear intention, we need to work with a goal in mind, and we do all of this by using this little practice hack. Hi everybody, my name is Tatiana. This is the Flute Practice, a space to help you learn and grow on the flute. What piece of practice advice, you may ask, am I speaking of? Well, it is a very simple little sentence that I love to use with my students. Whenever you're practicing anything and you're not getting it right, you have one of two options to help you, and that is you either break it down or slow it down. Okay, so let's back it up for a moment. Say you're playing through a piece of music and you're playing and you're playing and you're playing and you make a mistake or you get to a bit that is just not yet quite working. You have got one of two options, or you could use both options, but we'll get to that. You're either going to have to stop and decide, I'm going to slow it down, so I'm going to play this passage slower, or I'm going to break it down and I'm going to play a smaller chunk of it. Usually you want to try and identify exactly where the problem is, and you want to kind of zoom in and find that tiny little chunk and practice just that. Now the best way to show you this technique, of course, is to apply it to a piece of music. So, ta-da! Here is the piece of music that we're going to be looking at. This is actually a study straight out of our early intermediate Let's Practice Together program. If you want to find out more about this intensive, everything you'll ever need to practice and work on learning program, go and click the link down below. We've got some more information there. Either way, we're busy learning this piece, and at first glance, some of you might be like, well, super easy if you're really advanced. For some of you though, this might look really overwhelming. It's got a lot of runs in it, and some of those runs are actually a little bit fiddly and difficult. So if I was playing, let's say I pick it up and I'm like, okay, I'm playing, maybe I've practiced it for a while, I kind of know the notes, and I really want to play it quite fast. Okay, now, lots of unclean moments in there. I kind of got the notes, but not great. So I'm faced with the option. I'm like, that doesn't sound particularly great. What am I going to do? Slow it down or break it down. I'm going to choose one of those two options. Well, the first thing I would suggest that you always do is just slow it down first, right? So let's just slow it down. So I'm going to slow it down. So half the problem's already fixed just by slowing it down. But, you might say, I need to play this really fast, so how on earth am I going to get it faster? Well, there are loads of little strategies for that. We're not going to get into that right now, but here's where break it down becomes a really cool thing. Because if you practice short chunks of this at speed, you'll probably find it's not as difficult. So if I just played, for example, the first kind of chunk there, just that first little bit. Listen to this. Okay, just that little bit. It's much easier to play that nice and clean than if I had to play the entire line, right? Likewise, I could then play the next little chunk. So I could play da 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 da, just that little bit. So I could do. I chunked it even more to really get that, because that's the difficult bit. Okay, it's already feeling easier. And of course, I could even do a combination of both of those things. So I could slow it down and break it up. And I might even realize, hey, there's a really big issue here from the A sharp to the F sharp. That's actually my most challenging little bit. So I might just practice that little fingering. That is the most kind of nuclear version, the smallest version of really zooming in, breaking it up. Now, here's the rule. Here's the rule, right? Let me just put this down safely. For those of you who've been around for a little while, you know that I'm rather clumsy, so I have to be particularly careful with my flute. But here's the rule. The slower you play something, of course, the easier it is. The smaller chunk you play of something, the easier it is. So you can kind of balance out. So you could say, okay, I'm going to slow it down, but therefore I'm going to play a larger chunk of the music. This is a really great strategy if you're trying to kind of sew the whole piece together and you're trying to get all the bits to kind of weave together. Or you might say, no, actually, I need to practice this a little bit at speed. So I'm going to play it really fast to try and get the speed. But for that, I'm going to really kind of chunk it up into a tiny little bite so that I can digest that. Okay, so we can balance out these two things. And of course, when there's something that's really challenging and difficult, we're going to want to do both of these techniques. And this is where combination comes in. So now we can say, okay, I'm going to both slow it down and break it down. And this strategy, slow it down and break it down, is particularly brilliant when you are learning a piece of music. Hugely important. Because the worst thing you can do when you're learning a piece of music is just play through it from beginning to end and then play through it again and again and again, and you get the point, right? Terrible, terrible plan. Very inefficient use of your time and brain power and, my goodness, your life. Rather, we can immediately adopt the strategy and we can say, okay, I'm going to do things really slowly and I'm going to learn them in small little chunks. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm just going to practice that first measure slowly, just that bit. It's surprising, but your brain feels less overwhelmed. It's able to absorb the information more easily. And 10 to 1, you're just going to learn it faster and learn it more reliably because you're going to learn it without all those mistakes, right? Okay, so flute back in hand. This is what'll happen. So you just do that. Good. Okay, how's that feeling? I'm going to try it again. And you're going to do it again and maybe again. My teacher used to always say if you can play it 3 times in a row correctly, then you know you're safe. First time could be luck. Second time could be coincidence. Third time you're good to go. Within that, of course, you can then identify, oh, there's some tricky sections. There's some things that I'm struggling with. So for example, and this is coming again straight out of this lovely early intermediate program where, by the way, we do just this. I stand there with my pen and I teach you through these pieces. I show you how to break it up, chunk it up, learn it bit by bit. I teach you the rhythms. I walk you through learning your studies and pieces every single step of the way. So if that sounds like something that you need, then please go and check out the link down below. Okay, so like this section over here, I personally think this is probably one of the most challenging parts of this study. When I start learning it, I'm going to do it really slowly and really calmly. So I'm going to really do da, da, ra, da, ra. When I say slow, I mean slow. So 3 or 7, 8. And students will ask me, okay, well, how slow? Well, as slow as you need so that your brain can actually think ahead of time, process what it's seeing, read the music, and relate that back into finger movements, right? So as slowly as you need to, as slowly as you can actually think. This is just the note learning phase. Yes, there are a whole bunch of cool strategies. We can do rhythms, we can do all kinds of cool stuff to help learn the notes better, to speed it up. But that's it. That's how we learn that little section, and then we move on. The funny thing is when we work this way, we often feel like we're not doing enough because we don't see those immediate results that we might see or perceive to see when we just play through a piece over and over and over again, and maybe it gets a little bit better every time. But I promise you, you are going to learn it faster than ever. So next time you get stuck in a piece of music, you're going to say to yourself, slow it down, break it down. This is such a common phrase in my studio that I have a student who literally made this cool design. How cute is that? I've actually got one coming on its way to South Africa, and I'm going to highly encourage you guys. This is like not even sponsored. This is not, I'm not getting any cut out of this. This is pure community love because I love it when students and community members do things like this. So go ahead. She's actually selling this poster upon our request. I said, please, can you sell this so our community can buy it? She's selling this poster on her shop We've dropped some links below. So go ahead and get yourself this really cute poster, hang it near your music stand, and every time you're practicing, you won't forget. And then go ahead and click on these cool videos. We've got one really great video here about the next step, which is how to practice in different rhythms, a great little strategy, and a full video on how you can really learn a piece faster than ever, really breaking it down section by section. So go check that out as well. Happy practicing, and I'll see you guys in the next video.